Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. In other episodes of A Moment in History, we've explored the cultural and historical movements that led to the end of the Middle Ages, such as the Protestant Reformation and the rise of gunpowder in warfare. But historians like us love exact dates, so many of us want to have an exact year marked as the beginning and the end of the historical ages. So that begs the question, if we had to pick a specific year based on history on when the Middle Ages ended, when did it end? So what I'll do is I'll present three possible theses here and then give you my opinion at the end. While historians agree that Middle Ages ended sometime between the 14th and the 17th centuries, they can't seem to come to a sharp conclusion. Now, here are a few popular theories. Date number one is 1453. Why? Well, this is the year that Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Turks, which spelled the end for the Eastern Roman Empire, which had existed throughout the Middle Ages as the Byzantine Empire since the reign of the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great. Now, Constantinople, the New Rome as it was known, was the capital city of the Byzantine Empire for 1100 years. This empire, spanning the Middle Ages, had an overtly Christian quality about it, and as such, many historians find it appropriate to mark the downfall of this empire as the end of the Middle Ages. Now, while I'd certainly agree it could mark the de facto end of the Crusades in many ways, I personally think this date is a little too early, as many facets of medieval culture continued in Europe. Even though those pesky Turks with their gunpowder weapons and massive forces were breaking down the doors in the East. So date number two is 1492. Now, what happened in 1492? Well, I think you probably know it. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Now, until 1492, the prevailing theory in Europe was that the known world ended at the westernmost Atlantic coast of Spain, France, and North Africa. Columbus proposed the idea of finding a trade route to Asia by sailing west, not realizing that an entire continent lay between the western coast of Europe and the eastern coast of Asia. Now, this is a potential date because of the hinge point it serves in world history, and indeed it does. Everything after Columbus would be vastly different than it was before in the West, but I still think this date is a little early. Date number three is the one that I would choose, and it is 1517. Now, 1517 is universally accepted as the dawn of the Protestant Reformation in Europe, where the German monk Martin Luther aired his grievances against the Roman Catholic Church and changed the course of Christian history forever. Now, I choose this date because when we consider the 1,000-year history of the Middle Ages, the most important societal player throughout the whole period is the Church. The Catholic Church had, for the most part, dominated the fabric of medieval society, even as it fought with secular powers, all the way from when the Western Roman Empire crumbled and fell up until Luther's day. Now, that domination ended in many ways with Luther and the Reformation, as the Church's power began to decline in favor of more secularized power in the rise of nation-states. Now, some would argue for even later dates, such as the end of the Elizabethan England in the early 17th century, but I think by this time many of the classic indicators of a medieval society had collapsed, though not all of them. So there you have it. That's my opinion. You may have your own. The debate continues among historians, as I'm sure it will for the rest of human history. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.